Բարև ձեզ հարգելի բարեկամներ, Սփյուռքի ձայնը հեռուստահանդեսը դարձյալ ձեզ հետ է։ Այսօրվա հաղորդումը ուզում ենք սկսել մեր եթերը տրամադրելով իրավապահ Ելենա Ներսիսյանին, որի հյուրն է real estate broker Ելենա Սարգսյանը։ Douglas Elliman ընկերության փոխնախագահ։ Այս ընկերությունը հիմնվել է 1911 թվականին Նյու Յորքում եւ 1 դարից ավելի փորձառություն ունի Մանհաթենում սեփականության, առուվաճառքի եւ վարձակալության։ Ելենա Սարգսյանը, որ իր կրթությունը ստացել է սկզբում Միչիգանի համալսարանում եւ հետո Բոստոնի համալսարանում, արդեն 10 տարի է, որ աշխատում է այս ընկերությունում եւ զբաղեցնում է փոխնախագահի պաշտոնը։ Ելենա Սարգսյանը սիրված եւ հարգված մասնագետ է։ Նա նաեւ ակտիվ հասարակական գործիչ է։ Այժմ ձեզ հրավիրում եմ դիտելու հարցազրույց Ելենա Սարգսյանի հետ։
Hello and welcome to Legal Affairs. I'm delighted to have Ելենա Sarkisyan today as my guest. Ելենā is a vice president with Douglas Elliman and she is a highly respectable real estate professional. She is an expert at helping her clients to achieve their unique real estate goals, whether they are first-time home buyers, sellers, or they are international investors looking for that perfect New York City apartment. She has almost 10 years of experience in this industry. Thank you for being here today, Ելենā.
Thank you for having me.
Please say a few words about your practice in New York City.
Well, Douglas Elliman was started in 1911. It's the oldest and the largest real estate firm in New York City and one of the largest real estate firms in the nation. I've been a real estate broker for almost a decade now, and it's a very busy industry. So. Keeps me on my toes.
What are some of the trends in New York City?
Mortgage rates are at a historic low, so this is pushing a lot of renters into the buying arena. In addition, in 2012, rents increased almost 10%. So for those who have a solid job and have good liquidity and good credit, they're very mortgageable, and it's certainly creating an interesting dynamic. In addition, there are many families that are staying in the city and trying to find bigger apartments to buy. It's creating a lot of interest in bigger apartments and a momentum that we're really excited about.
For our listeners, Ելենā, who are new to this and they are first-time home buyers, what should they look for in a real estate agent?
It's important to work with a broker who is not only savvy about the city and the areas, the buildings, but also very adept at negotiating. I think it's important to have someone who's patient, but also a very good listener who can translate the needs of the buyer and be very aware of the financial abilities. I think most buyers want to feel comfortable in their investment, and no one wants to be cash poor. So you have to make the right choice for your investment.
I know there is also a report that is generally prepared by the brokers called comparative market analysis.
Yes.
Is this something that the buyers or the sellers should review and discuss with the broker before they make their decision?
Absolutely. An adept broker will be preparing a comparative market analysis on the buy side when you're investigating a property that the buyer is interested in purchasing. It's important to not only examine the pricing, but also the financial health of the building. And a CMA is very helpful to see how that particular apartment is positioned in the marketplace. On the sales side, it's important to evaluate the competition for that individual apartment, how it should be properly priced, evaluating, different units within the building and within the geographic location to see how, again, it's properly positioned. There's always a strategy with regard to pricing.
So it's an important report. It's like the first basic step. It informs the buyers and the sellers as to what to expect, what prices to expect.
It's a valuable analytic for buyers and sellers alike, certainly.
Ելենā, can you please guide us through the process of buying an apartment in New York City? Is it really important to have a real estate broker, and what is your role?
Well, I think when you first start your buying process, you should be very realistic about your comfort zone. It's important to speak with a buyer's broker about your needs, your investment needs, your wish list in terms of how you live your lifestyle. You know, buying an apartment is not just a good investment, but it's also important to consider your lifestyle and, you know, how you live in the evenings, how you commute to work. In addition, I think it's very important to examine the finances up front, because no one wants to be disappointed by, you know, seeing things that they just can't afford to buy. So that to have a frank conversation about the financial parameters and then the lifestyle parameters is really the best way to start.
And then I also want to ask about the schools and the zoning, because in New York City, as you know, obviously, parents, young families, they pay so much attention as to where the apartment is located, in which zone,
yes,
which school is assigned to that zone. So how do you address that?
There's an interesting trend on that angle, because families often list their apartments if their children don't get into the schools that they're looking for them to attend, and then they want to go into certain areas which are zoned for public schools that are considered to be very strong. So in Tribeca, for example, PS 234 is one of the best private public schools in the city, and then on the Upper East Side, PS 6 is also known to be one of the best. So we do see that uptick in listings right after the private schools release their acceptances. So it's interesting, but certainly a good broker will be able to guide the young family in terms of, you know, this is the school that's that's zoned for that building, and so we can find that out up front.
I know, it's amazing how much information one broker should actually obtain and provide to the potential buyer.
I'm really the nucleus for all of it, directing everything. The New York City marketplace is unlike the rest of the country. It's a very in-depth process. There are a lot of different coordination efforts. It's important to be on top of all of these angles, and also to work with people in a similar vein who can complete this process. For example, mortgage brokers who are responsive and professional, and lawyers like you who can close the deal properly and do the due diligence effectively.
Also, let's speak about exclusive brokerage agreements as far as the seller's side.
Sure.
Why is it important, and what is the advantage?
Well, first of all, referring to our previous question about the CMA, the comparative market analysis, I think it's important for a seller to bring in one or two brokers to have a CMA done, to have some expert knowledge from those brokers, in addition to, of course, their own awareness of their buildings. I mean, New Yorkers are very savvy about their investments, about their buildings, so they generally have a pretty good idea of value within their buildings, but they might not know about other things that are on the market. So it's important to be comparative with a few brokers about value and pricing, discuss a strategy, and then select an exclusive broker who is the point person for your property.
Elena, speaking about co-ops and board approvals, what is the role of real estate broker while putting together the board package? And is it really that difficult to get that board approval? You know,
condominiums are a third of the marketplace. Co-ops are about 2/3 of the marketplace. So it's an unavoidable reality in New York City. You are getting better value in many of the co-ops, but you have to be financially qualified. You know, at the essence, a co-op is a corporation, and the buyer owns shares of stock in that corporation. So the corporation will financially vet the buyer. This is something that's very unique to New York. When I have a lot of buyers who are coming in from other markets, they're very surprised by this. So the process, as you know, each building has a co-op board package which requests all of the financial information, the recommendation letters, employment verification, that type of thing. There are certainly co-ops in certain areas of New York that are notoriously difficult. You know, they are more intrusive when it comes to financial planning. At the root of it, a co-op would expect the buyer to have enough liquidity to handle the monthly maintenance for a few years, should there be a financial reversal for that owner, or shareholder rather. But To answer your question, it's not as prohibitive a process as many people think. It's laborious for the broker.
Yes.
It's preparing, a very large packet in multiples, and certainly a good broker needs to be able to thoroughly examine all of this information and make sure that the buyer is presented in the best light so that you ensure board approval.
That's what I wanted to ask for our viewers. Is there anything that you would suggest that the buyers can do to increase the likelihood of success as far as the approval? Something that they should know to begin with rather than at the end of the process?
Good credit always helps. Clean financials are a huge plus. Having a bank approve a buyer financially is one part of the equation, but people earn their money in very different ways today. So there are a lot of different scenarios that a co-op board needs to examine besides just a straight W-2, for example. People have multiple investments and changing life scenarios, divorce or inheritance, which needs to be presented properly. One thing I should mention is that the international population really is not a good candidate for a co-op for many reasons. One, the flexibility of ownership. When you own a condominium, you own the deed to the property. You have the flexibility to rent out if you like, or to use it as a pied-à-terre, and that becomes an issue in the co-op arena. It's much more restrictive.
Thank you. And also I would like to address the rental market.
Yes.
Where is it standing nowadays?
Well, as you know, rents increased almost 10% in 2012. So that provided an interesting dynamic because it pushed a lot of people who were waiting for prices to improve. Those who have, significant liquidity and have stable jobs and good credit are able to get financed. And so this has certainly pushed those people into the first-time buying arena. Those who cannot finance are staying in the rental arena. But with all of the change in dynamic, it takes some time to not only find a property that you're interested in buying, but if it makes financial sense.
Just to give our viewers just the basic information as to what to expect, what are some of the requirements that most Manhattan buildings have to qualify for rental?
It's a lot more prohibitive than most people think. The expectation, by and large, is for a prospective tenant to earn 40 or 45 times the monthly rent in salary. So it is quite significant. An average one-bedroom, just as an example, would be, let's say, $3,000 a month. So the expectation would be for the tenant to earn $120,000 minimum. If not, then a guarantor would be expected. A guarantor is, for the viewers to know, is expected to earn 90 times the monthly rent. So it is significant also to be employed, to have a letter of employment verification, and credit is examined as well. That's a very important component of renting an apartment.
And just going back to purchasing and selling apartments again, from what I'm hearing, apparently there are actually bidding wars happening over the apartments. Yes. Can you just speak about that?
We're having a lot of fun with it, actually. When something is properly priced and inventory is quite low, buyers are ready to pounce. And so, it takes a little time to educate the buyer and make sure that they are confident in making a bid because they've done all of their due diligence in terms of their needs and their wants. But we are certainly seeing something properly priced is having multiple bids on the first open house. So it's exciting from our perspective.
It's very competitive.
It's very competitive.
The market is really making a comeback
Absolutely.
After the financial crisis. And also, my understanding is that if there are multiple bids, and then sometimes the purchasers who are qualified purchasers, but they are borrowing money from the bank. Sometimes they're being outbid by all cash buyers. Is that the case?
It is indeed the case. All cash is a reality, and it's certainly very attractive for a seller because then there are no issues with regard to mortgage contingencies or any sort of delay. People are closing deals in the mortgage arena, but they are just taking a little more time. Banks are vetting people a lot more rigidly. It's taking a few months. I mean, the average, when you have a signed contract, the average closing is 2.5 months later, perhaps even 3 if it's a co-op board approval.
Thank you so much. This was a very, very informative session.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. If you have additional questions for Elena Sarkisyan, please email her at the email address on your screen. Our guest next time will be an attorney, and we will speak about buying and selling an existing business. I'm Elena Nersesyan, and I'll see you next time.